back to Goodbye Grains. Today we are making bulkogi, which is a Korean beef. Now this is actually one of my husband's favorite dishes. It's something we've actually been making for years, even before we were paleo, and even before we really focused on eating gluten-free. I used to make this, so for the most part all the ingredients are the same. There's only a couple things that are slightly different now that we eat paleo, which are really simple to do. So first off is the beef. This is some grass-fed top sirloin beef. I cut up most of it. I'm going to show you how to cut up the rest of it because it's really important that you cut it very thinly. So I'll kind of show you how I cut it. We have a white onion. We have an Asian pear. Now the Asian pear, we're actually going to grate this. And this is going to provide some really natural sweetness. We're not adding any honey, we're not adding any other sugar other than a pear, which if you're completely trying to stay away from fruit, you can probably forego the pear, but it might change the flavor a little bit. For other seasoning stuff, we have some coconut aminos. Now this is pretty much the one ingredient that sort of changed when we went paleo. Before I used to either just use soy sauce or gluten-free soy sauce. Now we use coconut aminos. Some sesame oil. I have some red pepper flakes. No kosher salt this time because the coconut aminos has plenty of salt. We have some ginger. We're just going to use a little bit of that. Some garlic, very important. And then last thing is some green onions. This is not going to go in the marinade. The green onions we can slice and then kind of sprinkle over the top at the very end of the dish to give it a nice fresh flavor. The biggest thing with this is making it the day before. I always make the marinade the night before. Pour it over the meat and just pop the meat back into the fridge and let it soak at least 12 hours. Sometimes I even do it 24 hours in advance. And then you can either grill the meat out on a grill or you can pop it in a skillet or, you know, whatever your favorite way to, you know, cook some thinly sliced beef. It's super quick because it's sliced so thin. You only need about 5 minutes of cooking time. So this is a perfect meal to make ahead of time where everything's ready to go. You're just cooking it and you can serve your family. So let's get these ingredients ready and we can make the marinade. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is cut the rest of the beef. So I have most of the beef already all cut up here. I'll show you guys kind of how I cut the rest of it. The first thing, well, there's a few things that you want to know. First, you want to cut against the grain. So since most of the grain is going this way, we're cutting perpendicular. That's very similar to what I kind of discussed in my sirloin tip roast video. Second thing, the easiest way to make very thin slices, which as you can see here, this is incredibly thin slices of beef, is to pop it in the freezer for about 30 to 60 minutes before you're going to cut it. This makes cutting the beef into thin slices so much easier than if you're just pulling it straight out of the fridge. So those are the main things. Lastly, because we're cutting the beef really thin, the marinade is really going to penetrate into the meat. So you can just kind of hold on to the beef with one hand and then just kind of slice straight down with the other. As you can see, these are nice thin slices. You can almost pull them apart because of the way that the grain is going. These are very small muscle fibers. That's going to make the meat really tender and really allow that marinade to penetrate. So we can cut up the rest of this. And you just want to be careful that as you get close to the end here that you are careful of your fingers because you do not want to accidentally cut the tip of your finger as you're trying to cut the meat really thin. And then what I usually do for this tiny little end piece, just to be careful, I usually just flip it flat and then just cut it this way. These couple last pieces might not be fully cut against the grain, but they're so small that they're not going to be tough. So you can add this to your bowl and we can move the cutting board aside. And then we are going to make the marinade that we are going to pour over. So for the marinade, we have our coconut aminos. We have some sesame oil. And then we have red pepper flakes. Now you can add as little or as much of this as you want. I'd probably add about 1/4 to 1/2 of a teaspoon. Which is pretty much the right amount for a little over 2 pounds of meat. You can just kind of stir that all together. Move this aside. Then in here we have our garlic, which is nice and chopped up. We have our ginger, we have our sliced white onion, and then this is our pear that we have grated and kind of, it almost looks like a puree. So we're just gonna dump all this right on top of the meat and then pour over our coconut aminos and sesame oil. And now just using your hands, you can kind of mix this all together. And then we are going to put a lid or some plastic wrap on it and then stick it in the fridge, and it's going to marinate overnight. And then we can either grill it or we can put it into a pan and just lightly cook it. You're only gonna be cooking it for about 3 to 4 minutes at the most. This nice thin meat is going to cook super, super quick. So as you can see, this is a really simple and easy dish to make. Perfect weeknight meal. I love making a ton of this beef. I always make at least 2 to 3 pounds, even though it's just my husband and I, so that we have plenty of leftovers for the rest of the week. It even tastes good with some eggs. It's kind of an Asian twist on a breakfast omelet. Makes perfect lunches. It's just super versatile and easy, and that little extra time to kind of plan ahead and marinate the meat the night before really makes that flavor shine through. So hope you guys will give this a shot. I will see you next week. Bye.